As a moderator, I was planning to summarize what many of these eminent panelists have said, but I think we should leave some time for Q&A. We are running out of time, so may I request for a few questions? Please make it short. It's a question, not a statement. Because we are running short, we want to give as many people time to be able to talk to our panelists. Yes, please. Give your name. Please just state your name and who do you want the question to be addressed to.
Okay, Hello. Yeah, my name is William. Okay, I have a question for Mr. Vilayati. So in your speech, you talk about regional integration between Iran and Russia, with Pakistan, with India, and with China. So my question to you is, will the regional integration benefit some country at the expenses of other country? For example, when the oil go direct from Iran to China by route, it will cut business for countries like Malaysia or Singapore. How are you going to address this issue? Thank you.
Oil and goods go straight, then Singapore and Malaysia suffer because Straits of Malacca. So how would you address that? Yeah.
If for all countries, it is very important to have different choices for the vital routes. If we want to have different routes for supplying energy, it's better to have different routes. If we have only one choice for energy, in that case, it means that the vital routes of energy is in a danger. Once I was talking with an important personality who was in charge for the Academy of Energy from China. I told him that how much oil comes from Malacca Strait to China. He said about 85%, 65%. I said this is a very dangerous situation because if once in the future this strait could be in a danger, in that case the providing of energy for you would be in a dangerous situation. So you should have different choices for providing energy and supplying energy. So it's better to have energy from different sources and different routes. That's the reason that I told them, we agreed upon that providing energy not only to the Malacca Strait, but also to the Iran and also Central Asia.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Surya from the Institute of South Asian Studies, addressed to Excellency Velayati. Sir, are you thinking in terms of, say, India-Iran economic corridor to connect to Central Asia on one side and to Afghanistan on the other side, and perhaps onwards to China as well? Thank you.
Economic corridor between India, Iran, and China and Central Asia. Are you thinking of economic corridor?
I think that we have to think about all of these corridors, because when we have different choices, in that case we would have all kinds of facilities for the economic cooperation. In that case, that would be to the benefit of all of us.
Okay, we have time for one more question. Yes, there's one gentleman there. This is the last one. We are run out of time.
So this question is for Dr. Ali Akbar Velayati. You have stressed the benefits of special routes and pipelines to transport important materials more cheaply and quickly. However, how feasible do you think building them would be, and after that maintaining them?
How easy is it to maintain and build them? in the pipelines that you're talking about? Is it easy to build and maintain?
Between Pakistan and
Yeah, Pakistan, India, and various pipelines.
That's very important. As I said, that's a peace gas pipeline. You know that recently in a Shanghai gathering, one of the most important conditions which has been mentioned for these two important countries, for the full membership of these two countries in Shanghai, was the elimination of the differences that these two countries historically have. So I think that could be a guarantee, at least for not only for the making energy, but also for the having full membership of Shanghai, because both countries need to have a guarantee for the continuation of the peaceful neighborly relations. So I think that these pipeline could have two benefits, two strategic benefits. From one side, this is the easiest and shortest way for preparing energy for both important neighboring countries to Iran. From the other hand, if both countries decide to prepare energy from one source, energy resources in Iran, in that case, both countries try to keep peace and tranquility in the border of two countries. I think that's a good guarantee. From the other side also would be another guarantee for the full membership of Shanghai, that Iran also is going to be the next candidate for the full membership of the Shanghai, if the distinguished representative of China agrees with that. Do you agree?
I think, can we take the other questions? We've run out of time. I know there's one gentleman here. Why don't you take the last one? You've been wanting to ask this question. Keep it short, and then we...
From Velayati, huh?
Who is the question addressed to?
Okay, the question is actually addressed to both both sides of the panel, to the gentleman from Pakistan and Iran on the one side, and to the gentleman from East Asia on the other side.
We don't have time for two, so just ask one.
Okay, yeah, one question is this.
Yeah.
I think what we're seeing now in the Middle East and East Asia is the unfinished business of the Cold War. What we see in Syria today, the US, Russian, and Iranian standoff is part of the unfinished business of the Cold War, which has erupted in war. In East Asia, we also have the unfinished business of the Cold War, a US line running down the coast of the South China Sea coast. My question to the gentleman from West Asia is, from your experience of war and conflict in West Asia, do you see any possibility of that repeating itself in East Asia, given that it is also the unfinished business of the Cold War? To the gentleman from East Asia, do you think that it is the de facto partial integration of the economies in East Asia which has prevented the outbreak of conflict in a region which is as rife with rivalry from the Cold War as the Middle East?
Okay, so may I ask Professor Hwang to answer then, and then maybe Mr. Barki, if you could answer the Middle East side.
Two brief. First, I don't think Cold War is the right word, because Cold War is based on policy is driven by ideology, and economy is totally independent of each other. And because of that, we have a black and white situation in which you are either on this side or on the other side. And, but now that kind of situation no longer exists. Policy nowadays is driven by interests, not by ideology anymore as much. And economically, we're interdependent into each other. And therefore, this world is not black and white. And you just look at A, I, B. Having said that, my second point is that the interdependence between United States and China is such that there's no ground for zero-sum game anymore. China's rise through integration, not challenging U.S. system, U.S.-led international system, has resulted in the fact that the U.S. interest groups in terms of China, vis-a-vis China, they're so much diversified. Whatever policy Washington, D.C. is made, if Wall Street is happy, defense industry will be pissed off. If manufacturer is happy, labor union will be pissed off. So in Washington, D.C., there's a constant compromise and struggle over what kind of China policy should be. So in the past 10 years, 20 years, U.S.-China policy is one word, inconsistent. And same situation also exists in China. So how to deal with each other between China and the United States, the worst situation is not between them, but in their own home. That kind of situation is unprecedented. And that is very good news, because that prevents what you describe, Cold War, even hot war, from happening in the first place. So, in other words, no matter how they deal with each other, they have to talk and work with each other. They cannot fight each other.
So let me just ask the last 1 minute from you. How will the Middle East situation get transferred to South China and the East Asia?
No, I don't think so. I think to talk about a new Cold War is just journalistic exaggeration. As he said, the United States and China are extremely dependent on one another, and they are not going to fight it out, certainly not a hot war, and definitely not a cold war. Just to remind you that I live in the United States, and I just cannot buy anything unless it is made in China. I don't remember seeing anything that was made in Russia in the stores of the United States. China today has, 20,000 students in the United States? Not a single Russian student attended United States institutions during the Cold War. So I think it's nonsense to talk about Cold War.
270,000.
Okay.
170,000.
So Dr. Velayati wants the last word on this issue, so I think it'll be great to hear from him the Middle East view.
As far as the Middle East is concerned, I think that the situation in the Middle East is quite different what's going on in other parts of the world. In Syria, in Iraq, in Yemen, the situation is quite different. I think that in that part of the world, things are going worse than any other places in the world. And now the resistance of the people of Syria is going on for 5 years, and now this is our hope that the people of Syria finally will win, like the people of Iraq. And but that's a difficult job, and the nature of the situation is quite different what's going on in the eastern part of Asia.
Okay, thank you. Let me just thank the panelists for a wonderful afternoon. I'm sorry.